Welcome, subscribers, to the channel. Here is today's story. I joined my father's company incognito, only to be told I was being fired on the orders of a man who suddenly appeared, claiming to be the CEO's son. I was dumbfounded. If he was the CEO's son, then who was I, the real CEO's son? The streets of Manhattan sizzled under the oppressive heat of late summer. The asphalt radiated a shimmering haze, making people long for the cool sanctuary of air-conditioned interiors. But Mike and I were hunched over a small table at a gritty food cart, parked directly across from the gleaming, multi-storied skyscraper of Apex Global. I lifted a flimsy plastic cup of iced coffee and took a sip. The bitter taste of cheap brew and the chill of the ice jolted me awake. I adjusted the collar of my worn-out polo shirt and glanced up at the top floor of that blue glass fortress. That was my father's office, Arthur Vance, the CEO. He was probably up there right now, sipping premium Kona coffee while reviewing financial reports. But here I was, his only son, counting the change in my wallet to make sure I could cover our coffee. Beside me, Mike let out a long sigh. He was my closest colleague on the sales team, a kind, earnest guy from a small town in the Midwest, trying to make it big in New York. He nudged my shoulder, his face a mask of worry. "Leo, man, our commission checks are late again this month. I'm seriously going to starve. Can you spot me $20? I need to put some gas in my scooter." I let out a hollow laugh and pulled the last $20 bill from my wallet, handing it to him. "Here, take it. I'm pretty much broke too, but my scooter's still got a full tank. Get your ride sorted first." Mike's eyes lit up at the sight of the cash, but his expression quickly turned apologetic. He knew that, like him, I was an out-of-towner living in a cramped shared apartment in Queens. To everyone at the office, I was just Leo, an unremarkable employee from an ordinary, even poor, family. I commuted on a beat-up scooter that coughed and sputtered like an old lawnmower. The clothes I wore were all from discount stores or thrift shops. No one could have imagined that this employee, named Leo, was the sole heir to a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Taking the money, Mike's voice was thick with gratitude. "Thanks, Leo. I swear, having a friend like you is the only thing keeping me sane here. Hey, did you hear? We're getting a new department head. And this time, it's not an outside hire. Rumor is, it's someone from the CEO's family." I feigned surprise, raising an eyebrow. "Really? How come I didn't hear about that? But why would a member of the CEO's family come down here? Shouldn't they be learning the ropes at corporate headquarters?" Mike leaned in, whispering conspiratorially. "The gossip from the girls in HR is that the CEO wants to train his son. The so-called heir apparent is coming down to see how things work on the ground floor. We're screwed, man. Those silver spoon types are always demanding and arrogant as hell." I burst out laughing, loud enough to make the food cart vendor look over. Mike was only half right. The CEO did want to train his son, but that heir apparent was sitting right next to him. I had asked my father to let me start from the very bottom, without any special privileges. I wanted to see the company's real operational systems, to understand the hearts and minds of the employees. Most importantly, I wanted to find truly loyal colleagues, not sycophants who would flatter the billionaire's son title. "Don't worry about it," I said, reassuring him as I stood up to pay for our coffees. "Whoever our new boss is, we just have to do our jobs well. If we do good work, we've got nothing to fear, right?" The woman running the cart, who knew me well, smiled. "Leo, honey, you're leaving already? You should buy a lottery ticket on your way home. Test your luck. Who knows? You might be a billionaire by dinner time." I grinned back. "Thanks, Maria. I don't think I've got the luck for that. Just getting my paycheck and putting food on the table is good enough for me." I pulled my old scooter from the parking garage and merged into the chaotic crush of rush-hour traffic. The air was thick with the blare of horns and exhaust fumes. This was real life. For the past 3 years, this is how I had lived. I loved this atmosphere, the authenticity of hardworking people like Mike and Maria. But I also knew that the calm before a storm is always deceptively beautiful. That night, back in my shoebox room in Queens, I received a text from my father. "Son, a new department head will be joining your team next week. Be careful. I want you to handle this yourself, so I can't intervene too much." I replied with a short, "Understood." A seed of curiosity bloomed in my mind. Who was this appointee? Why was there a rumor about an heir apparent? Could my father possibly have another son I didn't know about? Or was this just some ridiculous office gossip gone wild? I lay back, my arm over my forehead, staring at the water-stained ceiling. Tomorrow was going to be interesting. I was eager to see what kind of person this fake prince was. Whoever he was, if he dared to mess with me or harm this company, I wouldn't let him get away with it. The apex global blood running through my veins wouldn't allow me to bow down to an incompetent fool. Monday morning, the office air was thick with a palpable tension. Everyone walked on tiptoe and spoke in hushed whispers. They all knew the new boss was arriving today. The women on the marketing team wore more makeup and fancier clothes than usual, hoping to catch the eye of the rumored heir. Mike was a nervous wreck, constantly adjusting his crooked tie. At precisely 9 a.m., the large glass doors to the office swung open. It was as if even the cold blast from the AC had parted to make way for the main event. In walked Troy Sterling. My first impression of him was one word: ostentatious. He wore a shimmering navy suit, tailored so tightly it looked shrink-wrapped to his body, clearly an expensive designer brand. His hair was slicked back with a mountain of gel, giving him an air of conceitedness, and a diamond-encrusted Hublot watch glittered on his wrist. His Italian leather shoes clicked annoyingly on the polished floor. Trailing behind him was Derek Finch from the planning team, a man notorious for being a shameless sycophant. He had already assumed the role of the new boss's loyal bag carrier. Troy stopped in the center of the office, his eyes sweeping over everyone. His gaze was sharp, filled with a mixture of contempt and suspicion. He lifted his chin and spoke in a voice that was authoritative but grating. "Good morning, everyone. My name is Troy Sterling. As of today, I will be leading this sales department. I'm not a man of many words. I judge by results only. Let me be clear. I despise laziness and a lack of discipline. If you can't perform, write your own resignation letter. Don't make me fire you myself." A dead silence fell over the office. No one dared to breathe too loudly. The presence of the CEO's son was indeed formidable. Everyone lowered their heads, avoiding his gaze. I stood in a corner of the office, arms crossed, observing him quietly. His demeanor was nothing like my father's. My father was a man of quiet authority and calm dignity. His eyes were deep and kind, not arrogant and condescending like this man's. He looked less like a systematically trained executive and more like a lottery winner who'd suddenly come into money. Just then, the silence was broken by a ringtone. It was Mike's phone. He fumbled in his pocket, trying to silence it, but Troy was faster. He strode over to Mike and snatched the phone from his hand. Mike's face went pale. He stammered, "Sir, I'm so sorry. It's my mother. She's in the hospital." And Troy didn't even let him finish. He slammed Mike's phone down on the desk. It hit the corner and the screen cracked. He shouted, "You dare take a personal call during work hours? Is this a marketplace? Is this your home? Where are the company regulations? Where is your head?" Mike's eyes reddened, torn between worry for his mother and fear of his new boss. "Sir, I'm sorry. Please, just this once. I promise it will never happen again." Troy sneered, a cruel twist to his lips. "Forgiveness? If everyone asked for forgiveness like you, Apex Global would descend into chaos. What's your name?" "Mike Ramirez, sir." "All right, Mike Ramirez, you're docked 50% of your pay this month for violating work discipline and for the unprofessional attitude you've shown on my first day. If this happens again, pack your things and get out." A collective gasp went through the office, but it was quickly silenced by a glare from Troy. Mike stood frozen, his hands clenched at his sides. 50% of his salary was everything to him. His mother's medical bills, his rent, his living expenses for the month. A surge of anger rose within me. I couldn't just stand by and watch my friend be bullied so unjustly. Just as I was about to step forward and argue, Mike shook his head, stopping me. His eyes pleaded with me not to do anything foolish, afraid that I would get caught in the crossfire. I took a deep breath, swallowing my rage. Fine. Revenge is a dish best served cold. I'll remember this. As I stared daggers at Troy, he seemed to feel my gaze and turned toward me. "You! Over there! What are you looking at? What's your name? You got a problem?" I met his eyes directly and answered calmly, "Leo Vance." I was just admiring our new leader's presence. Very impressive. My words were double-edged, but an arrogant man like Troy only understood them at face value. He gave a cold snort, adjusted the lapels of his suit, and stormed into his office, leaving a heavy atmosphere in his wake. Derek scurried after him, not forgetting to shoot us a triumphant glare. When the office door slammed shut, a collective sigh of relief filled the room. Mike sank into his chair, burying his head in his hands in despair. I placed a hand on my friend's shoulder and squeezed it tightly. Only one thought echoed in my mind. Let's see how long you can keep up this act, you phony. Within just 3 days of Troy's arrival, the sales department office had transformed into something resembling a feudal-era barracks. Troy issued a series of bizarre regulations he called the New Apex Global Corporate Culture. The most absurd rule was that all subordinates had to stand and bow their heads at a 90-degree angle whenever he passed by. There were no exceptions, whether you were working or on your way to the restroom. He claimed it was the minimum sign of respect for a superior. People were resentful, but they endured it to keep their jobs. Everyone was intimidated by his heir-apparent title. A single wrong move, a slight offense, and they could lose their livelihood with a snap of his fingers. The sycophant Derek was appointed by Troy as the culture supervisor, tasked with monitoring who didn't bow properly or who showed a disrespectful attitude, reporting everything back to Troy. Thursday morning, I was in the men's restroom splashing water on my face to wake myself up. As I lifted my head, I saw Troy enter. He stood in front of the mirror, preening, running a hand through his already lacquered hair, then glanced at my reflection. I dried my hands with a paper towel, ignored him as if he were thin air, and started walking toward the door. "Hey, you!" Troy's shout echoed off the tiled walls. I stopped but didn't turn around. "Were you calling me, sir?" Troy quickly moved to block my path, his face flushed with anger. He had probably never been ignored like this, especially by a low-level employee in shabby clothes like me. "Do you not know who I am? Or did you not see me standing here? What happened to company regulations? Why didn't you greet me?" I looked him straight in the eye, my gaze unwavering. I was slightly taller than him, so standing this close, I was looking down on him, which only seemed to enrage him further. "Good morning, Mr. Sterling." As I recall, the regulation states that greetings should be performed in the office space. I didn't think a restroom was a place that required such formality. And I believe respect comes from the heart, not from bending your back. Troy was momentarily speechless. He hadn't expected me to counter with such a sharp retort. He gritted his teeth and pointed a finger in my face. "You dare to lecture me? Do you have any idea that I can fire you on the spot, you backwoods hick?" I gently pushed his finger away from my face with a firm, cool motion. "Mr. Sterling, you are my superior, so you certainly have that authority. But power doesn't give you the right to insult another person's dignity. I sell my labor to this company for a salary, not my self-respect." With that, I walked past him and out the door. Troy stood rooted to the spot, his fists clenched. I heard him growl behind me. "You're asking for it, you son of a bitch. You're dead. I'll teach you what respect is. Let's see how long a fake tough guy like you lasts in this city." When I returned to my desk, Derek was whispering with a few female colleagues. From the way his eyes darted toward me, I knew he was either spreading some new rumor or plotting something. I sat down as if nothing had happened and turned on my computer. In the next cubicle, Mike nudged me with his elbow, worried. "I saw Mr. Sterling go into the restroom earlier. He came out looking furious. Did something happen with you?" I smiled lightly, typing on my keyboard. "Nothing much. Just a friendly exchange of opinions on etiquette. Don't worry about it. Just finish your report, or you'll get your pay docked again." Though I spoke casually, I knew Troy was a petty man who held grudges. He wouldn't let this go. He would find a way to get back at me, and perhaps at Mike too. I had to be more careful. But the more he tried to oppress me, the stronger my fighting spirit grew. I wanted to see what would be left of him besides pettiness and emptiness once I stripped away his heir-apparent facade. That afternoon, a company-wide email was sent to the entire department. Troy demanded that all employees work overtime to meet a ridiculous new sales target he had arbitrarily set. Anyone who failed to meet it would be subject to a disciplinary review. This was clearly a trap to establish his authority and smoke out dissenters like me. The real war had just begun. Troy's strategy wasn't limited to threats. He was a cunning fox who understood the carrot-and-stick approach. After creating an atmosphere of intimidation, he began to buy people's loyalty with money, aiming to completely isolate me and Mike from our colleagues. Friday morning, Troy walked into the office looking unusually cheerful, a stark contrast to his murderous expression from a few days ago. He clapped his hands to get everyone's attention. "Everyone, listen up! I have good news. To boost morale as we head into the end of the year, I've decided to give out special bonuses from my own pocket to employees who have shown a great attitude and worked hard this past week." Derek quickly scurried over with a stack of thick envelopes. Troy picked them up one by one, calling out names. Cheryl from admin, for always making my coffee just right, $200. Kevin from Team B, for finishing his reports quickly, $300. And my loyal assistant Derek gets $500. People's eyes lit up, and they erupted in applause. To modestly paid office workers, a few $100s was no small amount. Those who received the money bowed and scraped, thanking Troy as if he were a king. Those who hadn't yet received theirs looked on with eager anticipation. Troy made his way around the office, handing out nearly all the envelopes. He deliberately walked past my and Mike's desks. He stopped, tapped the remaining envelopes against his palm, and sneered. "It's a real shame about these two. Poor work attitude, frequent disciplinary violations. I'd love to give them a bonus like a brother, but rules are rules. I hope you'll learn from the others and work harder." He said it loud enough for the entire office to hear. Gazes of pity, sympathy, and ridicule fell upon us. A few colleagues who used to have lunch with me now avoided my eyes, their hands fiddling with the thick envelopes in their pockets. The power of money was truly terrifying. It could warp relationships that had once seemed quite strong, like camaraderie. Mike's face turned red with shame and frustration, and he lowered his head over his keyboard. He desperately needed the money, and it was impossible not to feel a pang of desire, but he had his pride. Troy clapped Derek on the shoulder and announced loudly, "Tonight, I'm treating everyone to a karaoke bar in K-Town. Come on out and blow off some steam. My treat. Anyone who doesn't show, I'll take it as a personal insult." The office erupted in cheers. "Mr. Sterling, you're the best. You're amazing, sir." It was as if Troy were their savior. Derek glanced over at me and said in a mocking tone, "So, Leo, Mike, are you guys coming? The boss invited you. You shouldn't be party poopers. Or maybe you can't even afford the cab fare to get there?" I smiled and answered calmly, "Thank you for the kind invitation, Mr. Sterling Derek. We wouldn't miss such a fun party for the world. We'll be there." Mike tugged on my sleeve, whispering frantically, "Are you crazy, Leo? You want to go there and get humiliated even more? I'm not going." I looked at Mike, my expression firm. "We have to go. We have to be there to see the show. Trust me, it's free food and drinks. Why not? If we hide, they'll just think we're scared." That lunch break, I saw Derek pulling other employees into the hallway, whispering. As I passed, I overheard him say, "The boss said if we can get that punk Leo drunk tonight, there's an extra bonus in it for us. Let's humiliate him properly." I scoffed. So, it was a trap. Troy wanted to use alcohol and peer pressure to insult me, to make me kneel and beg for forgiveness or turn me into a laughingstock. He thought I was a naive little rabbit surrounded by wolves. He was sorely mistaken. He didn't know that my tolerance for alcohol was inherited from my father, a man known in the business world as someone who could drink anyone under the table. More importantly, I held a secret that could turn the tables at any moment. I patted Mike's shoulder reassuringly. Tonight, at that karaoke bar, I would show Troy Sterling that money isn't everything, and that a person's dignity can't be bought with a few dollars or a phony, lavish party. The karaoke bar in Koreatown was a dazzling assault of flashy lights and ear-splitting music. Troy had booked the largest VIP room, which could hold up to 30 people. Expensive bottles of whiskey kept coming, and tables were laden with platters of fruit and towers of beer. Troy sat in the center, a pretty female colleague on each arm pouring his drinks. He grabbed the microphone and, his face flushed from the alcohol, belted out a cheesy power ballad. The employees surrounded him, clapping and cheering enthusiastically as if he were a pop star. Mike and I sat in a secluded corner near the entrance, quietly sipping our beers and picking at the appetizers. We were like strangers in the midst of this frenzied party. My ex-girlfriend Jessica was also there. She wore a very short miniskirt and heavy makeup, sitting right next to Troy, occasionally whispering in his ear and laughing. Seeing them together left a bitter taste in my mouth, not out of lingering affection, but out of disappointment at how much a person could change. The old Jessica was gentle and down to earth. The current Jessica seemed so materialistic and cheap. Derek, his glass full, approached me, followed by a few already drunk colleagues. "Hey, Leo, Mike, why are you hiding in the corner? Come on over and raise a glass to Mr. Sterling. The boss invited you. It's disrespectful not to drink with him." Troy put down the microphone and looked over at us, his hazy eyes filled with challenge. He crooked a finger. "Yeah, you two, get over here. If you finish this entire bottle of Johnny Walker Blue, I'll reconsider docking Mike's pay. And Leo, if you drink it all, I'll give you $500 right here, right now. What do you say? Got the guts?" As he spoke, he pulled a thick wad of $50 bills from his pocket and tossed it onto the table. The entire room went silent, holding its breath to see my reaction. This was a clear, public humiliation. He wanted to make me perform like a circus monkey for a few bucks. Mike started to get up to drink in my place, but I stopped him. I stood, straightened my shirt, and slowly walked to the table. I looked at the full bottle of whiskey, the pile of cash on the table, and finally, straight into Troy's eyes. "You're very generous, Mr. Sterling, but I'm afraid I'm a lightweight. I can't accept your money. I'll just have a beer to show my congratulations." As I lifted a beer glass to drink, Troy suddenly slapped my hand. The glass shattered on the floor, splashing beer all over my pants. "You arrogant bastard! You won't drink what I offer? You want a punishment instead? I told you to drink this bottle, so you drink it. Who the hell do you think you are, trying to negotiate with me? You broke, backwoods trash, acting all high and mighty." Troy shot up and screamed insults in my face. Jessica, sitting beside him, chimed in, her voice sharp. "Just drink it, Leo. Mr. Sterling is taking pity on you, giving you a chance to earn some money. You don't have a penny to your name, so what's the point of pretending to have pride?" Jessica's words were the last straw. I looked at her. My cold gaze made her flinch and turn away. I faced Troy and said firmly, "I may not have money, but that doesn't mean my character is poor. You might have money and power, but you can't buy my respect. I'll be leaving this party now." I turned to walk away. Troy was consumed by rage. He grabbed the whiskey bottle from the table and lunged at my head. "You son of a bitch! Don't you walk away from me!" The women in the room screamed. Mike rushed forward to stop him, but it was too late. However, having trained in self-defense since I was a kid, I could feel the rush of air behind me. I spun around quickly, using my left hand to sharply strike Troy's wrist and my right to give a light push to his chest. Crash! The bottle fell to the floor and shattered. Troy lost his balance and tumbled onto the sofa, his face ashen. He had never expected me to react with such speed and strength. He lay on the sofa, gasping for air, staring at me as if he'd seen a ghost. The room froze. It was so quiet you could hear the hum of the air conditioner. I stood tall in the middle of the room, casually brushing off my sleeves, and looked down at Troy with a pitying gaze. "You've had too much to drink, Mr. Sterling. You should go home and rest. Don't let alcohol compromise a leader's dignity." With that, I took Mike's hand and walked out of the room, leaving behind a crowd of stunned people and a fake prince drowning in humiliation. I knew that after tonight, the war between Troy and me would no longer be a psychological one, but a fight for survival. He wouldn't let me off the hook, and I was ready to fight back. Stepping out of the bar, a cool night breeze hit us. Mike looked at me, his voice trembling but full of admiration. "What did you just do, Leo? Did you really just hit the boss? Oh my God, we're so fired tomorrow." I clapped his shoulder and laughed reassuringly. "Don't worry. He won't fire us right away. His ego is too big for that. He'll find a more devious way. But don't worry. I'm here. I won't let anyone touch you." I looked up at the star-filled night sky. The time to end this charade was fast approaching. "Troy Sterling, you picked a fight with the wrong guy." After the karaoke bar incident, Troy suddenly disappeared. He took sick leave for 3 days. The atmosphere in the office eased slightly, but everyone knew it was the calm before a massive storm. It was an unspoken understanding that Troy was plotting his revenge against me and Mike. Derek took this opportunity to spread rumors throughout the company that I was a violent thug who had assaulted a superior, exaggerating the facts to paint me as an undisciplined, uncontrollable employee. Many people started to view me with suspicion, afraid that getting too close to me would make them targets as well. Mike was so worried he could barely eat or sleep, terrified of being fired right before the holidays when everyone's family needed the money. The following Monday, Troy returned to the office. The bruise on his ego had faded, but the hostility in his eyes had intensified tenfold. He wasn't shouting or swearing like before. He was quiet and sullen, which put me even more on guard. A petty man is most dangerous when he's silent. During the weekly meeting, Troy summoned the entire sales team. He sat at the head of the table, fiddling with an expensive fountain pen, his eyes scanning everyone, but deliberately ignoring my and Mike's presence. In a cold voice, Troy said, "Everyone, I've just received a directive from upper management regarding year-end personnel restructuring. Due to the difficult economic climate, the entire corporation needs to streamline its operations for efficiency. Therefore, our department will have to reduce its headcount by 20% before the new year." The office began to murmur, a wave of anxiety washing over the room. Losing a job at this time of year was like a death sentence for a family's holiday season. Derek stood up, clearing his throat self-importantly. "Sir, what will the criteria for the cuts be? Will it be based on performance and work attitude?" Troy nodded, a faint smile on his lips. "Exactly. Those who fail to meet targets, lack a sense of responsibility, or disrupt internal unity with rebellious behavior will be on the blacklist. I have given it careful consideration and have already compiled the list." With that, Troy pulled a single sheet of letter from his briefcase and slammed it on the table. His eyes were fixed on me, full of provocation. I remained sitting up straight, looking right back at him without a trace of fear. I knew perfectly well that this directive from upper management was a lie he'd concocted. My father had never implemented such a drastic, last-minute staff reduction policy. He always cherished his employees, considering them the company's most valuable asset. Troy picked up the paper and read the names aloud. "Based on performance and conduct over the past month, we have decided to terminate the employment contracts of the following 2 employees early, Mike Ramirez and Leo Vance. The reasons are failure to complete assignments, unauthorized absences, and assault on a superior." When Mike heard his name, his face went deathly white and his hands started to tremble. He shot up from his seat, his voice cracking with fear. "Sir, please reconsider. I've always been diligent, and I've met my sales targets every month. That incident the other day was a misunderstanding." Troy slammed his hand on the table and shouted, "There are no misunderstandings. The decision has been made. Hand over your work and get out of the company by the end of the day. I don't want to see such disruptive elements in my department." The office was dead silent. Everyone looked down. They all knew the real reason, but no one dared to defend us. Cowardice and fear had silenced their consciences. I stood up, patting Mike's shoulder to calm him down. I looked Troy straight in the eye and said, enunciating each word clearly, "Mr. Sterling, you said this was a directive from upper management. Where is the official document with the seals of the HR department and the executive board? The paper you're holding is just a piece of paper printed from a personal printer. It has no legal effect." Troy faltered for a moment, then veins bulged in his neck as he retorted, "How dare you demand documents from me? I am the head of this department. I have the authority to make decisions about personnel in my department. The official paperwork will come later. Now, get out of here." I smiled faintly and shook my head. "I'm sorry, but we have an employment contract with Apex Global. The legal representative is the CEO, not you personally. We will leave when we receive a legitimate termination notice with official signatures and seals. Until then, we are still employees of this company and will continue to work." With that, I sat Mike back down in his chair and turned on my computer as if nothing had happened. My actions drove Troy into a blind rage. He hadn't expected me to be so well-versed in labor law and so defiant. He threw the paper on the floor and screamed, "Fine. You want paperwork? I'll have a termination notice thrown in your face this afternoon. Let's see you beg me on your knees then." He stormed back to his office, slamming the door. Derek scrambled to pick up the list and followed him in. The other people in the office looked at me with a mixture of pity and respect. They had never seen anyone confront a superior so directly, but they also thought I was a fool trying to fight a losing battle and felt sorry for me. By the afternoon, the atmosphere in the sales department was suffocating, like the air before a thunderstorm. Derek bustled in and out with a stack of documents, his face beaming as if he'd struck gold. He walked over to the department's public bulletin board and posted a notice with a red stamp on it. Urgent announcement. Everyone, come and see the official layoff list. People crowded around to read the notice. It clearly stated the decision to terminate the employment contracts of Mike Ramirez and Leo Vance. Below were Troy's signature and the sales department's seal, and more importantly, the signature of the head of human resources. Seeing the notice, Mike completely broke down. He slumped into his chair, covered his face, and began to sob. "It's over, Leo. I'm really fired. What am I going to bring home to my mom for Christmas now?" Mike's cries broke my heart. I knew his family's situation was very difficult. His aging, sick mother and younger siblings all depended on his meager salary. Troy's cruelty had pushed a good man to the brink. Derek stood by the bulletin board, sneering. "See? What did I tell you? Acting all tough. And look at you now. Guess you'll have to pack up and go back to farming in whatever hick town you came from. New York is no place for people who don't know their place." A few employees who had sided with Troy also snickered. "Tough break, losing your job right before the holidays. Guess that's what you get for pissing off the heir apparent. Serves you right for being stupid." I stood up, walked over to the bulletin board, and tore the notice down. Derek shouted, "Hey, what are you doing? You dare tear down a company notice?" I held the paper in my hand and examined the HR head's signature closely. I recognized it as authentic. Troy must have used his CEO's son reputation to pressure the HR department into approving this unreasonable decision. I turned to Derek, my voice cold. "Shut up. There's something wrong with this paper. I'm going to go sort this out myself." I went to Mike, pulled him to his feet, and said firmly, "Mike, get up. Men don't cry. I told you I'd protect you. Come with me." I led Mike straight to the elevator. Our destination, the executive floor, where the management and HR departments were located. The people in the office stared at us, bewildered. Derek quickly pulled out his phone to report to Troy. Inside the elevator, Mike wiped his tears and asked worriedly, "Where are we going, Leo? To HR to beg? It's useless. They've already signed it." I shook my head. "We're not going to beg. We're going to get justice. Just trust me." Actually, I had no intention of going directly to HR. I needed to confirm something important first. I pressed the button for the rooftop, a place no one ever went. On the windy rooftop, I took out my phone and called my father on his private number, one known only to our family. It rang twice before he answered. My father's deep, warm voice came through. "Son, what is it? Why are you calling at this hour? Aren't you supposed to be working?" I took a deep breath and said calmly, "Dad, I need to ask you something serious. Do you, by any chance, have a secret son named Troy Sterling?" There was a few seconds of silence on the other end, followed by my father's booming laughter. "What are you talking about? A secret son? I have only you and your mother. Why are you asking such a strange question all of a sudden?" I briefly explained Troy's arrival, his claim to be the CEO's son, his arrogant behavior, and his attempt to pressure HR into firing me and Mike. After hearing the whole story, my father's voice turned stern. "Sterling, you say? I've never heard that name among any of our relatives or acquaintances, and regardless of who he is, I will not tolerate anyone causing chaos in my company. Don't worry. I'll have my people look into this immediately. If he dared to impersonate me to do bad things, he will be dealt with severely." I hesitated for a moment, then continued, "Dad, I think he might be connected to someone in upper management, which is why he's acting so boldly. I want to handle this myself. I just need you to do one thing for me. Anything, son. Just name it. Please call Mr. Evans, the director of HR, and tell him to come down to the sales department to meet me right now. I want to see his reaction. And that Troy Sterling's." My father agreed immediately. "Done. I'll call Evans. Do as you see fit. I trust your judgment." After hanging up, I turned to Mike. He was leaning against the railing, looking down at the bustling city below with a hopeless expression. I walked over and patted his shoulder. "It's done. Let's go back down to the office. An interesting show is about to begin." Mike looked at me, confused. "Who were you just talking to? How does your dad in some small town know someone so high up here?" I smiled enigmatically. "My dad may live in a small town, but he's a man of his word. You'll see." We returned to the sales department office. Troy was sitting with his legs crossed, smugly waiting for us to pack our things. When he saw me and Mike walk in, empty-handed, he scoffed. "Where have you been? Are your things packed? Should I call security to seal your computers?" I didn't answer, just walked to my desk and sat down calmly. Seeing this, Troy flew into a rage, slammed his desk, and stood up. "You're a persistent one, aren't you? Security, get in here and drag these two out." Two burly security guards entered, but they looked at me with hesitation. They liked me because I always greeted them and sometimes bought them sodas, but they couldn't disobey a superior's order. Just then, the office door opened, and a middle-aged man with graying hair and an air of authority walked in. It was Mr. Evans, the Director of Human Resources for the entire corporation. At the sight of Mr. Evans, the office fell silent. Troy quickly stood up, straightened his suit, and greeted him with a fawning expression. "Mr. Evans, good morning. Did you come to check on the implementation of the termination decision?" "I've already handled it. We just need to escort these two out." But Mr. Evans didn't even look at Troy. His eyes darted around the office as if searching for someone. When he spotted me sitting calmly in the corner, his face changed. He broke into a sweat and hurried toward me. Troy followed, bewildered. "Sir, where are you going? That man is a fired employee." Mr. Evans stopped in front of me. He instinctively started to bow, but stopped himself when he saw me give a slight shake of my head. He cleared his throat, wiped the sweat from his brow with a handkerchief, and turned to Troy, his voice trembling. "Mr. Sterling, who gave you the authority to fire employees at will?" Troy was flustered, stammering, "But, sir, didn't you approve the list this morning? I reported that these two employees committed serious disciplinary violations." Mr. Evans cut him off, speaking firmly. "I signed it this morning because I trusted your report. But after reviewing the documents and receiving a direct order from the CEO himself, I've found that this termination procedure was completely flawed. You have framed and oppressed your employees." The entire office buzzed with astonishment. No one understood what was happening. Why had the HR director suddenly done a 180? Troy's face was drained of all color. He never thought Evans would change his tune so quickly. "But sir, Evans shot Troy a look, and the warning in his eyes made Troy swallow the rest of his sentence. He wanted to play his CEO's son card to threaten him, but in front of Mr. Evans, the CEO's actual right-hand man, he didn't dare make a move. Mr. Evans turned to me and Mike, his voice much softer. "On behalf of the HR department, I apologize to both of you for this terrible mistake. This termination decision is hereby immediately null and void. Please continue your work as usual, and the company will provide appropriate compensation for the emotional distress you have suffered." Then he turned to Troy and declared for all the employees to hear, "And you, Mr. Sterling, you have until 5 p.m. today to write a detailed report on this incident and submit it to the executive board. If you cannot provide a justifiable reason, we will consider disciplinary action against you for abuse of power." After speaking, Mr. Evans gave me a respectful nod and left the office. Troy stood frozen like a statue in the middle of the room. Derek was hiding in a corner, his face pale, unable to say a word. Mike, still in shock, turned to me and pinched my arm hard. "Leo, am I dreaming? We're not fired? But why did Mr. Evans suddenly take our side like that?" I rubbed the spot he pinched and laughed. "Ouch! It's not a dream. I told you, you wouldn't get fired. Good people get rewarded, and if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. I guess someone in management found out we were wronged and intervened." I glanced at Troy. He was staring at me with a mixture of hatred and fear. He was beginning to realize, dimly, that I was not the simple, low-level employee he thought I was. But his foolish arrogance still clouded his judgment. He thought this was just a stroke of temporary luck on my part. After work, I suggested to Mike that we go for a cold beer to celebrate dodging a bullet. Mike, ecstatic after the near disaster, readily agreed. We sat at our usual spot, a dive bar by the East River. The cool breeze was refreshing, and though the sound of traffic was loud, today it sounded almost cheerful. Mike raised his beer glass and clinked it against mine. "To us, brother, for surviving the crisis. It's on me tonight." "I'm so happy, Leo." I smiled and downed half my cold beer in one go. "Forget it. I'll pay. You don't have any money right now. Send that cash to your mom." Mike waved his hand. "No way. You've helped me so much. Tonight, I have to treat you properly. But man, you were amazing today, Leo." The look on Troy and Derek's faces was priceless. Like kicked puppies. Looking at my simple friend, my heart warmed. In a society rife with money and schemes, meeting a true friend like Mike was a rare gift. He didn't know my identity. He was my friend simply because I was Leo Vance, a fellow struggling colleague. Mike, let me ask you honestly. If I had really been fired earlier, would you have walked out with me? Mike put down his beer and looked at me seriously. Of course. We're brothers, man. Where you go, I go. Worst case, we could both get jobs as delivery drivers and still make a living. What's to worry about? I was deeply moved by his words. I decided to repay this good friend. After we finish this, I'm taking you somewhere nice. Where? You're not taking me somewhere shady, are you? I'm broke. I burst out laughing. What are you talking about? We're going shopping. Christmas is coming up. We should get some new clothes. Look at that shirt you're wearing. The shoulder's all ripped. Forget it. That's a waste of money. I'm used to dressing like this. I don't have money to splurge. I stood up and pulled Mike's arm. Let's go. I won the lottery today. Got some extra cash. I want to share it with my brother. If you don't come, I'll be offended. I lied about winning the lottery so Mike wouldn't feel burdened. The mention of extra cash seemed to sway him a little. Really? How much did you win? You're really treating me? Yeah, for real. We're wasting time. Let's go. I put Mike on the back of my old scooter and headed straight for the luxury shops on Fifth Avenue. Sitting behind me, Mike's eyes went wide as he stared at the buildings glittering with festive lights. Whoa, Leo. Why are we here? Everything here is crazy expensive. They say a single shirt here costs as much as our monthly salary. I parked the scooter and patted Mike's shoulder. Just come inside. Don't worry about the money. Today, I'm going to make you look so sharp, it'll make their heads spin. We walked into the grand lobby of a luxury department store. Mike walked cautiously, as if afraid of dirtying the gleaming floors. I walked with confidence, leading Mike straight to the floor with high-end men's fashion. I wanted to buy Mike a sharp suit and a matching watch, but I had no idea that an even more interesting drama was waiting for us right here. A fateful encounter that would strip away all pretense and bring the story to its climax. Bathed in the light of the magnificent chandeliers on Fifth Avenue, Mike was overwhelmed. He stuck close to me, gawking at the luxury stores he had never even dreamed of entering. I led him past high-fashion boutiques toward a Swiss watch specialist. In front of us was a Rolex store, displaying timepieces with astronomical price tags. A security guard in a black suit opened the shining glass door for us. Mike stopped and tugged at my sleeve. Leo, why are we going in here? Look at the prices. They're all hundreds of thousands of dollars. Can your lottery winnings even buy a single screw from one of these? I smiled, reassuring my friend. Relax. We're not buying, just looking. When else in our lives will we get to feast our eyes on something like this? In truth, I planned to buy him a watch as a symbol of our friendship, but I didn't say it up front, fearing he would be too shocked and run away. I pulled his hand and walked inside. The air was cool and filled with the faint scent of polished wood. The watches, resting on red velvet cushions, gleamed even more brilliantly under the warm lights. As I was admiring a diver's watch, I suddenly heard a familiar voice, a voice I had once loved, but which now sounded incredibly bitter. Well, if it isn't Leo, what are you doing here? I turned to see Jessica and Troy standing not far away. Jessica was clinging affectionately to Troy's arm, decked out in a new designer dress, a Chanel bag, and a sparkling gold necklace. Troy still had that arrogant look on his face, a large Hublot watch on his wrist. Jessica's disdainful eyes swept over me and Mike from head to toe. I was in a plain t-shirt and jeans, and Mike was still in his worn-out work clothes. Our appearance in such a luxurious place was certainly out of place. Troy sneered. I didn't know low-level grunts like you came to places like this. What, are you here to escape the heat? Or maybe looking for a job as a security guard? They don't hire riffraff here. Jessica covered her mouth, giggling. Oh, Troy, be nice. Maybe Leo is just showing his friend the sights. With his measly salary, he's probably behind on rent. What money would he have to buy anything? Mike's face turned beet red, and he lowered his head, utterly embarrassed and ashamed. I, on the other hand, looked directly at Jessica, my gaze surprisingly calm. It's been a while, Jessica. And you too, Mr. Sterling. We're here to shop, just like you. This is a store, open for business. Anyone with money can buy things. There's no rule that only the rich are allowed in. Jessica pouted and shot back. Oh, Still got that pride, I see. You think I don't know you? In the 3 years we dated, what did you ever give me besides a few cheap flowers and tacky gifts? Now that we've broken up, you want to pretend you're rich? Don't make me laugh. Her words felt like a knife in my chest, not because I still loved her, but because I realized I had wasted 3 years of my youth on such a cruel and materialistic woman. I had once considered revealing my identity and giving her a life of luxury. Thank God I hadn't. Troy was pleased to see Jessica insulting me. He wanted to use this opportunity to belittle me again in public. He beckoned to a nearby sales associate. "Hey, you! Come here!" A young, elegant saleswoman hurried over and greeted them politely. "Yes, sir. How may I help you?" Troy pointed at me and Mike and said arrogantly, "What kind of a business are you running here? Why are you letting such shabby, dirty people in? Look at them. They're ruining the store's image. A VIP customer like me finds it very unpleasant to be in the same space as people of their kind." The saleswoman was flustered, looking back and forth between us and Troy. She could see our clothes were simple, but the store policy was not to discriminate against customers. However, judging by Troy's luxurious attire and arrogant attitude, she guessed he was a big spender and didn't want to get on his bad side. "Sir, our store policy is—" Troy cut her off, pulling a shiny gold VIP card from his wallet and brandishing it in her face. "Policy? I'm a regular customer here, and this is my privilege card. Get these two out of here now. If you don't, I'll call your manager and have you fired," Jessica added in a sharp voice. "That's right. Those two are just looking. They obviously don't have the money to buy anything. They're just taking up space, and I'm worried they might steal something. Get rid of them." The employee, caught in a difficult situation, turned to me and said apologetically, "Sir, I'm very sorry, but if you could please—" I raised a hand to stop her. I didn't blame her. She was just an employee trying to earn a living, caught under the pressure of these nouveau riche bullies. I looked at Troy and smiled faintly. "A privilege card, Mr. Sterling? How impressive. But as far as I know, the VIP card's Apex Global issues to its partners aren't so yellow and tacky. Did you buy that on Canal Street?" Troy flinched, his face turning red. He quickly put the card away and yelled, veins popping in his neck, "What do you know, you idiot? This is a limited edition card for the upper class. A country bumpkin like you wouldn't even get to see one in your lifetime." Mike tugged at my arm, whispering, "Leo, let's just go. I can't stand being humiliated like this anymore." I gently patted the back of his hand, holding him back. "No, I'm buying you a watch today. Let's see who has to leave." I turned to the saleswoman and said in a firm voice, "Could you please call your manager? I have a complaint to make about customer service." Troy laughed out loud. "You want to see the manager? Who do you think you are? The manager is busy with important clients. He doesn't have time for a bum like you. Stop putting on a show," Jessica sneered. "Know your place, Leo. Take a look in the mirror. It'll be even more embarrassing if security has to drag you out." Just then, a middle-aged man in a sharp black suit and gold-rimmed glasses emerged from a back room. It was Mr. Abernathy, a senior manager for the entire chain of stores and an old acquaintance of my family. Mr. Abernathy walked out with a calm demeanor, his sharp eyes surveying the scene. Seeing him, the saleswoman rushed over as if she'd found her savior and reported the situation. When Troy saw the manager, he became even more arrogant, adjusting his tie and lifting his chin. "Are you the manager here? I'm Troy Sterling, son of the CEO of Apex Global. I want you to kick these two bums out of your store. They're disturbing my shopping." Mr. Abernathy's brow furrowed slightly at the mention of the CEO's son. He had worked with Apex Global for decades, but had never heard of the CEO having a son named Troy. He looked at Troy with suspicion. Then his gaze shifted to me. The moment his eyes met mine, his stern expression suddenly dissolved, replaced by one of extreme surprise and reverence. He hurried toward me, pushing Troy aside. Troy almost fell. Mr. Abernathy stood before me, bowed deeply, and said in a voice filled with emotion, "Young Master Leo, my goodness, it really is you, sir. Why didn't you let me know you were coming? I would have come out to greet you personally." The entire store fell dead silent. The saleswoman's jaw dropped. Mike, beside me, stared with wide eyes, and Troy and Jessica were frozen in place, as if they had been struck by lightning. I smiled and helped Mr. Abernathy up. "Hello, Mr. Abernathy. It's been a long time. I was just stopping by to look at some things, and didn't want to disturb you. But it seems we've had a bit of an unpleasant incident." Mr. Abernathy spun around and glared at Troy and Jessica, his eyes as cold as daggers. Who just dared to be disrespectful to young Master Leo? Troy, his face completely pale, stammered, "You've got the wrong person. This guy is my subordinate. I'm the son of the CEO of Apex Global." Mr. Abernathy scoffed, his voice dripping with contempt. "Don't lie to me. I've worked with CEO Arthur Vance for over 20 years and have watched young Master Leo grow up since he was a child. This is young Master Leo Vance, the one and only son and sole heir of Apex Global. Now, who are you to dare come in here impersonating and swindling people?" Mr. Abernathy's confirmation was like a bomb exploding in the middle of the store. Jessica dropped the designer bag she was holding. She stared at me, her eyes wide with shock and regret. The man she had just insulted and mocked for being poor was, in fact, the real billionaire heir, the massive gold mine she had foolishly kicked to the curb. Troy was sweating profusely, trembling. He realized he had messed with someone he should never have touched. All his bravado and arrogance had instantly become a pathetic clown show in front of me. Mike, standing beside me, was speechless, stammering, "El Leo, you're the real CEO's son? If you're so rich, then why?" I patted his shoulder. "It's a long story. I'll explain everything later. Let's finish this first." I took out the powerful, exclusive black card from my wallet, one owned only by 3 members of my family. I handed it to Mr. Abernathy. "Mr. Abernathy, please wrap up that solid gold Rolex over there for my friend, and please escort these 2 loud customers out. I'd like to shop in peace." Mr. Abernathy took the card with both hands respectfully. "Of course, young master. I'll take care of it immediately." He then signaled to 2 burly security guards at the door. "Please escort this gentleman and lady out, and ban them from entering any of our locations, effective immediately." The guards approached Troy and Jessica. Troy, in a last-ditch effort to save his pride, pulled out his own credit card and yelled, "I have money. I'll buy that watch. You can't throw me out." Mr. Abernathy said coolly, "I'm sorry, sir, but your card has just been declined. The bank informs us that your credit limit isn't even enough to buy a strap here. Please leave." Troy, completely defeated, hung his head like a beaten dog and walked out the door. Seeing this, Jessica panicked and ran to me, grabbing my hand and sobbing, pleading, "Leo, I was wrong. He tricked me. I still love you so much. Please forgive me. Let's start over." I pulled my hand away and looked at her with cold, emotionless eyes. "Jessica, there's no use crying over spilled milk. You loved money, not me. Now that I have money, there's no place for you. Go find the rich man's dream you were looking for." Jessica cried wretchedly, but was mercilessly dragged out by the guards. The glass door closed, separating 2 worlds, one of crumbled, false glamour, and the other of stark, powerful truth. I turned back to Mike. He was still staring blankly at the dazzling gold watch Mr. Abernathy had just brought over. "Leo, is this really for me? How much is this?" "It's nothing. It's a gift for you, for being by my side when I was at my lowest. Our friendship is worth far more than this watch." Tears welled up in Mike's eyes. He didn't dare accept such an extravagant gift, but I firmly fastened the watch on his wrist. "You'd better get used to it. I'm going to need a very capable right-hand man soon. You'll need to dress the part." We left the store to the respectful farewells of the entire staff. Walking beside me, Mike kept touching the watch, muttering in disbelief. I felt a sense of liberation, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. The mask was off. It was time to go back and clean up the mess at the company. The next morning, the news of what happened on Fifth Avenue spread through the company like wildfire. When Mike and I walked into the office, all eyes were on us, but they were no longer looks of contempt or pity. They were looks of fear, curiosity, and awe. Mike wore the new suit I'd bought him and the Rolex watch. He looked like a completely different person, much more confident and composed. I was still in a simple suit, but the aura I exuded was different. I walked to my desk without a word. The door to the manager's office opened, and Troy came out with Derek. But today, Troy's attitude had done a complete 180. The arrogant, overbearing man was gone, replaced by a servile, fawning sycophant. He was holding 2 cups of the most expensive gourmet coffee. He came to my desk. placed the coffee down, and smiled obsequiously. Young Master Leo. Mr. Ramirez, good morning. I brought you some coffee. I was too rash yesterday. If I've offended you in any way, please be generous and forgive me. The entire office held its breath, watching this play unfold. Everyone knew Troy was trying to do damage control. He knew my identity and was now kissing up to save his job. I didn't even glance at the coffee, keeping my eyes fixed on my computer screen. I don't have a taste for expensive coffee. Give it to someone else. Troy's face stiffened, but he persisted. He yelled at Derek, "Derek, get over here and apologize to young Master Leo. It was all your fault for instigating things and making me misunderstand him. It was all you." Derek was stunned, his face turning ashen. He never thought Troy would throw him under the bus so ruthlessly. He trembled as he approached me, bowed his head, and mumbled, "Young Master, I'm sorry. I was foolish to listen to Troy Sterling. Please forgive me." I looked up at the two clowns before me, my contempt reaching its peak. Just yesterday, they had pushed me to the brink and insulted my character. Now that I held the power, they were fawning over me and blaming each other. Truly shameless. I pushed my chair back and stood up. The loud scrape made the whole office jump. I stood in the middle of the silent office, looked Troy straight in the eye, and said in a firm voice, "Enough. The show is over. Do you think a cheap apology can erase everything you've done? You turned this workplace into a circus, using money and fake power to trample on others. I don't need your apologies. What I need is to clean up this company." I took out my phone and called the company president. "Yes, Mr. Hayes, this is Leo Vance. Please send someone to the sales department right away. I'm about to make an important personnel announcement." Hearing me on the phone with the president, Troy's legs gave out, and he collapsed to the floor. He knew his end had truly come. Just 5 minutes after my call, President Hayes and other senior executives arrived at the sales department. A solemn atmosphere filled the office. The employees who were usually laughing and chatting now stood in dead silence, their heads bowed, barely daring to breathe. Mr. Hayes came up to me and bowed respectfully. "Director Vance, we've come as you requested." I nodded and motioned for him to step aside. I walked up to the podium where Troy used to show off his authority. I scanned the familiar faces. Some had mocked me, some had avoided me, but I no longer cared about them. My target today was the ringleaders. I pointed at Troy, who was kneeling on the floor. "Troy Sterling, you impersonated the CEO's son, abused your power, oppressed employees, and sowed discord. You also colluded with outsiders to forge documents for personal gain. As the largest shareholder and legal heir of Apex Global, I am firing you immediately. All assets you've acquired through embezzlement will be confiscated." Troy, tears and snot streaming down his face, looked up and begged in a trembling voice, "Young Master, please forgive me. I was wrong. I was deceived by others. Please give me another chance." I replied coldly, "I already gave you a chance, but you didn't take it. You've gone too far. Security, remove this man." 2 guards came in, grabbed Troy by the arms, and dragged him out. He screamed pitifully, but no one paid him any mind. Next, I turned to Derek. He was shaking like a leaf in the wind. "And you, Derek Finch, you're a two-faced hypocrite who destroyed camaraderie with flattery and backstabbing. This company needs people with ability and integrity, not petty sycophants like you. You're fired too." Derek couldn't say a word and collapsed to the floor. He knew that with such a disgraceful record, he would never find a job anywhere else after leaving Apex Global. After dealing with the 2 main culprits, I turned to the entire staff. I know that over the past few weeks, many of you went along with bad things out of fear or for personal gain. I will not hold you accountable this time, but I hope this serves as an expensive lesson. From today on, Apex Global will be a fair and transparent environment. Those who do well will be rewarded, and those who do wrong will be punished. Please work with sincerity." A thunderous round of applause erupted. People looked at me with respect and gratitude. I had restored integrity to this workplace, just as I had promised Mike. That evening, I returned to our family's mansion in the Hamptons. My father was waiting for me in the living room, his face etched with worry. When I walked in, he stood up, came over, and gave me a tight hug. "Son, you did very well. I heard the whole report from President Hayes. I'm so proud of your decisive handling of the situation. I sat on the sofa opposite him and looked him straight in the eye. Dad, I need a clear explanation about Troy Sterling. How could he so confidently claim to be your son? He's not crazy. He must have had some basis for it. My father sighed, his eyes looking sadly out the window. This is a story I had hoped to keep hidden for my whole life, but I suppose the time has come to tell you. The truth is, after your call a few days ago, I hired a private investigator to thoroughly look into Troy's background. He paused, as if gathering his courage, then continued. The investigation and a secret DNA test confirmed that Troy is my biological son. I was stunned, my heart pounding in my chest. I had suspected something, but hearing it directly from my father was still a shock. So, you lied to Mom and me? My father shook his head vehemently. No, don't misunderstand. This happened a long, long time ago, before I ever met your mother. I had a brief relationship with a woman in my hometown. After that, I moved to the city for business, and we lost touch. I never knew she was pregnant. She never once came to me to tell me. It was only recently that Troy came to the company with some old mementos and a DNA test, trying to pressure me. But I swear, I never met him in person or acknowledged him in any way. I listened quietly, the anger in my heart subsiding a little. My father was a victim of his past too. Then why didn't you tell me from the beginning? I was afraid. Afraid of hurting your mother. Afraid of breaking up our family. I tried to handle it quietly. I was going to give him some money to start a business somewhere else. But I never imagined he had ambitions to take over the entire company. He took my hand, his voice pleading. Leo, you are my only legal son. You are my pride. I've already made up my mind. I will not let Troy get involved in our family's assets or business in any way. If necessary, I will sever all legal ties through our lawyers. Please believe me. I looked at my father's graying hair and felt a wave of compassion. I believe you, Dad, but we need to handle this matter decisively to prevent it from becoming a bigger problem later. With Troy fired and the secret of his birth revealed, Jessica's life was turned upside down. She was evicted from the luxury apartment she was living in. It turned out that the apartment was actually my property. I had let her live there for free when I felt sorry for her living in a tiny, cramped place. I hadn't gotten it back when we broke up, and then Troy had stepped in, boasting that he had bought it for her. Jessica had believed him completely, thinking she had found a solid rock to lean on. Now that the truth was out, my lawyer repossessed the apartment. Jessica was left on the street with no home, no money, and the stigma of being a gold digger. The next morning, as I was entering the company lobby, a person darted in front of my car. It was Jessica. The glamorous, arrogant woman I had seen on Fifth Avenue was gone, replaced by a disheveled, exhausted-looking person. She knelt in front of me and cried wretchedly, "Leo, please, don't kick me out. I was wrong. I was tricked by Troy. I still love you so much. For the sake of our 3 years together, please forgive me." Security guards moved to pull her away, but I raised a hand to stop them. I got out of the car and stood before her, looking at her with pity. "Jessica, you love me? For the past 3 years, I gave you my whole heart, but you trampled on it for a few dollars. You abandoned me when I was at my lowest and humiliated me in front of others. Now that you know I'm rich, you come back begging. Your love is too cheap." Jessica clutched my pants leg, sobbing. "I was wrong. I was so wrong. Please let's start over. I'll be good. I'll listen to you." I pulled her hands away and said in a cold voice, "It's too late, Jessica. Trust, once broken, can never be regained. I can't have a materialistic, treacherous woman by my side. Go, find another path in life." With that, I turned to the nearby HR manager. "Please begin the process of terminating Miss Jessica Bell's contract today. The reason is disorderly conduct and damaging the group's image." Jessica screamed in despair at my words, but I walked away without a backward glance. I knew I was being cruel, but this cruelty was necessary to sever this toxic relationship for good. After being fired, Troy was cornered. He was being chased by loan sharks for massive debts incurred from his extravagant lifestyle and gambling. He went to my father for money, but my father flatly refused and threw him out. Pushed to the brink, he turned to crime. Hatred and desperation made him reckless. He believed I was the cause of all his problems, the one who had taken everything from him. He planned to get revenge on me, extort money, and flee the country. One late evening, Mike and I were on our way back after dinner. I was dropping Mike off at his studio apartment in his neighborhood. The alley leading to his place was deserted, and the streetlights were dim. Just as my scooter turned a corner, a dark figure suddenly jumped out and blocked our path. It was Troy. He was holding a glittering knife, his eyes bloodshot. He growled like a wounded animal. "Get off. Get off now." I calmly turned off the engine and stopped the scooter. Mike hid behind me, terrified. "Troy, what do you want? Calm down and don't do anything stupid." Troy laughed maniacally, pointing the knife at me. "What do I want? I want money. You took everything from me. Now you're going to pay. Give me $500,000, now, or I'll gut you." I looked at the knife in his hand and at his eyes. I saw more fear and desperation than malice. He was just a cornered dog, barking. "I don't have that kind of cash on me right now. Put the knife down and let's talk." "Talk? No more talking. Wire it to me now. I know you have money in your account. Do it." He rushed forward and pressed the tip of the knife against my throat. Mike screamed, "Leo, watch out!" Just as the blade was about to touch my skin, I moved. With 10 years of Krav Maga training, I sidestepped his lunge, using my left hand to sharply disarm him and my right to deliver a powerful uppercut to his abdomen. Troy let out a pained groan and dropped the knife, but still stubbornly tried to grab and tackle me. I maintained my balance, flipped him over my shoulder, and slammed him hard onto the concrete. He lay on the ground, moaning in pain. I quickly pinned his arms behind his back. "Mike, call the police." Just 15 minutes later, the police arrived. They handcuffed Troy and took him away. At the station, Troy still lied, claiming I had started the fight, that I had beaten him up for no reason. But he didn't know I had anticipated something like this. The action camera mounted on my helmet had recorded everything from the moment he blocked my path, threatened me with a knife, and tried to extort money, to the moment I subdued him. Faced with irrefutable evidence, Troy bowed his head and confessed. He was charged with attempted murder and robbery. His sentence would be a long prison term, giving him plenty of time to reflect on his mistakes. My father heard the news. He sighed sadly, but did not intervene to lighten the sentence. He said that a man must take responsibility for his own actions, and Troy had to face the judgment of the law. A few months later, everything had settled down. Under my leadership, Apex Global grew stronger than ever. I cleaned up the organization and placed capable people like Mike in deserving positions. Mike was now the sales director, much more mature and confident. He remained the same honest, kind-hearted person he had always been, becoming my most trusted right-hand man. One weekend afternoon, Mike and I were sitting on the roof of the company building, looking out at the sparkling New York City skyline. I smiled at him. "Hey, Mike, remember that food cart we used to go to?" Mike took a sip of his cold beer and laughed. "How could I forget? Those days taught me who my real friends were and who were enemies. Thanks, Leo." "Don't mention it. We're brothers." "Oh, by the way, I'm taking a month off starting next week. Before I officially take over as CEO from my dad, I want to clear my head and do a cross-country trip. You want to come?" Mike's eyes lit up. "Hell yeah. I've been wanting to get some air. Are we going by motorcycle or car?" "Motorcycles, of course. That's the only way to really see the country. Just the two of us, 2 bikes, hitting the open road. We clinked our bottles. Our hearty laughter echoed into the open air. Life was a series of unpredictable surprises and challenges. I had spent years in a difficult undercover journey to find true value, and I had finally found it. It wasn't money or power, but true friendship, fairness, and self-respect. Tomorrow, a new journey would begin, and I, Leo Vance, would no longer hide. I would walk my path with my head held high, proud and confident.